Welcome back again. It's about 3:30 Central Time. Let's turn this taskbar off here so we got a little more room to work. Oh, I mean, if you don't know already, this is Paramay Trades. This is Paramay's Trade Journal. This is my online journal. Yeah, just looking at market structure, market sentiment between the lens or through the lens of the Commitment of Traders study, looking at some pivots and looking at some price action, and we're going to take a look at the S&P based off what happened last Friday. So we take a quick peek here at commercial interest, and they were not shy about setting a new low last week. So did they know something that we didn't? Because this is a Tuesday report, so they took positions probably on Monday. Tuesday was they submitted their position report. Then we don't get the data till Friday. So they set some serious new lows on the 6-month index. So we're going to update this number now, but I just wanted to show it here just so that we could see a reflection. So we got to put this low value in because we're moving forward now. Moving forward, not looking back. Let's take a look. Really bearish on S&P right now. Commercial interest is. And the index hasn't been the easiest to follow. Hasn't been the easiest to follow on the 6-month. Well, I can't say that for certainty here. Market sentiment is low, think rally. WPR was pretty low. Was pretty low back here. We saw a nice bounce on the S&P. Let's clear the strong side out so we can take a look at commercial interest. So this is really bearish, right? For comms here. Where are we on the WPR is we're pretty low. It's pretty weak. And open interest is just through the roof right now. Absolutely through the roof. Broke bearish in here. It broke bearish a couple of weeks ago. It was a nice bounce, but commercial interest is not very optimistic on the 6-month index. We blasted through this pivot really well. This is before this this uptrend started, right? So I think this is why we drew this. So this uptrend started here. And comms were really bullish on both the 3-year index and the 6-month index. So do you follow commercials and say these guys would like to be on the right side of the trade? They're investing a lot of money. They would like to be on the right side of the trade. So this helped us out to identify that we were possibly in a short position here. When commercial interest gets this bearish, when they hold this negative of an outlook on the S&P, and open interest is really high, this is the recipe that you look for. So if it's going to get bullish, when it's going to turn around, we like to see open interest at a relative low or diminishing at least before this thing turns around. And we'd like to see that commercial interest kind of reinvigorate, is the word I'm looking for, or kind of gear back up. But right now they are bearish as all heck. So what are we gonna do about this? I mean, if we're following comms, if this is the methodology that we're looking at here, what's in store for the weeks to come here? Let's just set the ATR range. Ooh. How do you like that, huh? This 9 and 2.5 seems to work out rather well for us. So right up against the range, you know, one that's broke, came back up, tested it. I think this can go lower. This is what we like to see on ATR, is a break of the range, pull back up into supply, and then continue in the sentiment's direction. How low can this go? I don't know. You know, can it find a bottom? Well, we got this low here. We're going to have to watch it. What were we looking at on the lower time frames that maybe would have given us an indication that we could have gotten into the short trade? Well, we had no buildup whatsoever against this trend line. It just broke. We come up, we got our descending pivot, you know, high here. So now we've got a trend line to work with, a descending high line to work with. And we're going to keep this extended because maybe we'll come up and retest that at some point. So here's our, you know, here's our third descending high. A lot of confluence on this line. I remember watching this on Friday and saying, wow, there's quite a struggle going on up against this trend line. You know, what's going to happen? And it broke down. And we haven't yet seen something on this chart that would tell us that we're getting, you know, a pivot. So are we going to swing here? You know, we'll come down, we get a nice swing pivot, and this thing starts to turn around, and they come up and re-challenge, you know, this trend line up in here. For the moment, finding some support on a break here, and a nice W pattern panning out. It looks like it favors the bulls. Can we get some movement here at the market open that would suggest that this is going to recover a little bit and retrace? So let's take a, I don't usually use Fibonacci. I just want to see what we're up against here. So up against that 50, up against that 50, I think maybe, you know, come down and trade through that 25%. Well, isn't that strange where that lines up, huh? Can we get a pivot on the 25? You know, maybe trade below this 25 for a safe entry long and pivot up and come up and test these areas again. So we traded through the 50 and come back down, trade into that 25% range, and then, you know, maybe we'll get some continuation. I like the W pattern that was working out here. I was liking it back here as well. We had a nice W working for the bulls here too, and I think that they really wanted to break through this, but there was just too much pressure. Bears were not having any part of it. And eventually broke down, you know, this support area. So we've got this temporary floor on declining price action, but couldn't hold it. Same thing with this pivot too. Couldn't hold that area. Couldn't get up over that, you know, that temporary floor, or called temporary support area. So you got a bounce, but same position up in here, losing support, not being able to come up and clear that floor for that pivot. Came down, you know, couldn't break back up above this pivot, couldn't find support there. You know, where does that leave us now? Well, we're going to look for a swing pivot here, so maybe we get some retrace. And we did take out this high. Is that a false high though, or are we going to get some continuation? I vote for continuation. I vote for, it's been getting slaughtered for a couple of days here. Are we going to have an up day? You're going to have to see what's going on, because this is, I mean, this was a nice way to close, right? Or are, you know, we getting, shorts closing out their contracts just before the close of Friday here. We're going to know more on the open. Let's look for a pivot here. Let's look for a higher low. That's what I'm going to do. You can do whatever you want. I really don't care. But if I'm going to play S&P this week, I'm going to look for this swing and this W pattern to help the bulls find a little bit of retrace and come up and test some of these levels that it lost. A lot's going to hinge on the fundamental aspect and the news and what we got going on. But when we're low like this, we have a tendency on the market sentiment to think rally. So can we get a nice rally up in here, or is it going to sputter out? And we'll have to wait for market sentiment to be even lower. I mean, this is pretty damn low, at least in regards to the 15-minute. So we take a look at the market sentiment here. Yeah, I mean, we're low, right? We like diminishing market sentiment. Why? Why do commercial interests and bulls like market sentiment when it's low? Because, you know, people are not very optimistic. There's some, you know, low value here or undervalued, and they may take it the other way. We got a 4-hour chart too that I usually look at. I like looking at the 4-hour chart sometimes. So we're going to clear this out because it's a damn disaster. We did find some subtleties up here, you know, on this chart when we were looking at it for a short position. And I think you just have to take them, right? You just have to take these signals, these swing patterns. At least we had found it on the 15-minute chart anyway. Was it present here? Was the top, you know, was this top present? Could we have known? Com's getting really bearish down in here, right? So here's our 6-month index. Come on, draw. Oh, a little late, right? So this is, you know, we don't get the report till Friday, but, you know, they had a negative outlook here. Oversold up in here. You know, and I don't like that term. I don't like the term oversold. I like overextended. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the bulls are overextended. Maybe it's got to cool off a little bit. To what degree will depend, though. And I like to draw this, you know, I like to draw this price line in here. You know, even on any time frame, really, 4-hour support. So this 4-hour support, because we pivoted from here, and this is what led to that, you know, to this trek up, this trend up. So we drilled down a little bit, and it wasn't even subtle. I mean, on the lower time frames you can see it. On the 4-hour you can't. This top we could see on the 4-hour, or I'm sorry, on the 15-minute chart, that we couldn't really identify on. Oh, we're gonna have to get a longer look back here. Oh, even longer? Longer than 20 days? Has it been that long? I'll go back 30. Because I thought we had identified this top here on the lower time frames, and we said you got to take what you can get here. Take what you get. So here was that 3,400 high, and it was just ever so subtle with a lower high pivot or a swing high pivot. And we said, okay, here's that temporary support that we crisscross traded through, and then when this I think when this happened, we knew that the high was in. With lower high here. And I think what we had identified was that this area was our trading area, and that we were going to get short. Sometimes it's not as clear as day, I feel like sometimes. And you know, double top market sentiment, or double peak market sentiment, I really like. On the ATR range, or on just average true range itself, I do like double peaks. We'll get an ATR at another point in time. That was something I studied for a handful of months, and this was the MES, the S&P index. What I really liked about that was when volatility spiked on the ATR, we knew that we were in an uptrend. So ATR favored bullish sentiment on spiked volatility, and on declining volatility, I think it favored bearish sentiment. So we can look. We'll look at that at some point, but you know, just swing pivots. That's it. Swing high pivot. Not being able to take out the previous, you know, swing high pivot, and we watch. And I mean, that was a pretty good indicator, right? There's some serious market sentiment going on in here. Come up, retest out, you know, some of these levels here, and we just couldn't get over it. Bulls couldn't recover there, and the rest is, you know, is history, right? So we had a nice range to work with here. We bottomed out, we found a ceiling, and this was really interesting, right? This low amount of bullish movement up against the ceiling. Broke down the EMA. Tried to find support. Once they lost it, they just couldn't regain it. Break the floor, come up, retest the floor, and away we go. Find your bottom pivot here for the floor. There's your ceiling. Couldn't get up over the ceiling on this. Scalpers might have got caught short here. Not a great deal of buildup. Not a great deal of buildup to get up over this trend line, but it did find support, this descending high pattern. And a nice candle for the bulls, a nice defensive candle for the bulls. So that may have triggered some buying up in here. So then we've got this ascending lower high pattern going on. EMA moving down, squeezed through the pattern, and away we went again. Where are we now, huh? Well, I think we'd reported this before, that we liked this, right? We liked this pattern, this W pattern coming into play again. A lot of confluence along this this swing high pivot, and then we get this swing low. And we were buyers. We get this nice W pattern again. Bulls took control, they broke. And you know, once we, gosh, I mean, it's just very decisive. The bulls were very decisive on the close of, was it close of Wednesday? Close of Wednesday into the open of Thursday. We're very decisive about the direction. Broke the floor. We just, and bulls couldn't recover from that break. It was only a temporary floor here on the 15-minute chart, but very decisive pattern. It looks like this is, you know, bulls were not going to let up this entire way down. So we've got this nice W pattern again. Are we going to get some bullish retrace here? Those are my thoughts on the S&P right now. I'm going to be looking for a higher low. I'm going to be looking for some bullish activity, some bullish cues with market sentiment as low as it is and maybe rising, I would look for a higher low and then for a break. Can we get out of this, this downtrend? We saw a lot of confluence on this last lower high pattern. Are we going to get the same kind of intense trading around here and some build up before we get a break, or is this thing just going to cut? Just going to cut and run. Take out that low. All right, those are my thoughts on the S&P. I mean, it's getting watch the news here, because I haven't picked up the the TV probably all weekend. Been working on a little bit of branding, so could be some opening market open fuckery, as they say. So we gotta watch it. Yeah, that's all I got on the S&P. That's all I got. Check your fundamentals. Look for a higher low. Look for a turn. We had 2 down days. Maybe we have a recovery day. But I got to see something from this W pattern, and I got to see something from this swing before I'm a buyer. But I'll take my scalps nonetheless. Anyways, Discord channel is listed in the description if you want to stop in and talk about the charts. Tell me that this analysis is absolutely crap, and that I really don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm missing something. So maybe you've got some info. Maybe you know something I don't. A lot of people know a lot of things that I don't. I'm picking up new things every day. Studying the charts is a lifelong journey for me. I'm dedicated and disciplined to studying the charts pretty much every day of the week, as often as I possibly can. So I'm always interested in new methodologies. At least, taking a look at them on the surface. ATR was something I looked at for a long time. Did I find it useful? Not in terms of entry and exit. I really didn't. So I liked it to I mean, you can see the market sentiment just by looking at the chart. You don't need average true range to tell you that. Was it helpful? Yeah, it was kind of helpful. I like the ATR range peaks. Those were they were pretty informative, at least on the higher time frames. ATR in the daily range was magnificent. Some people use ATR purely. I do use ATR trailing stop, and we do use ATR trailing stop on the lower time frames too. 288 length at a 2.5. I find this to be helpful in terms of the 15-minute chart because of the length. Sometimes it works here. So a couple of times we did get a great pivot and a break of the range, but then it immediately, on the pullback where we're looking for, a break of the range, come back, pull, but it immediately broke the range again, and we're short. So how helpful it is on the 15-minute time frame? Sometimes it is. I do find it a little helpful on the 5-minute time frame for scalps. But this can be, you see this break and you say, oh, let's go long. And well, not really up against this support test. Can it help out? Dealer's choice. Are you going to stay short here just because it broke the range, or are you going to go long just because it broke? I wait for a break of the range, a pullback into either supplier, in this case demand, and I make sure that it doesn't close below the range again. We did close below this range here, and that would have knocked you out of the short position if you were purely following the chart based on ATR. I think it's helpful, but I think you're probably better off looking at your ranges, your ceilings, your high and your low of the ceilings. And this was very decisive W pattern and a swing pivot. And then there's your ATR ranges, your feel-good scenario that, you know, this is extremely bullish, and maybe you got bullish here for a scalp during this buildup, knowing that you had the ATR range there as support and that this wasn't turning. You also had the 15-minute ceiling here from the 15-minute chart. So, you know, price action blazes down here. We find a pivot. We come up. Here's your ceiling test. Immediate response. Come back down, and we don't quite test the floor again, at least through the lows, and we blast through the ATR range, and away we go. It's helpful, but it's not. I don't think ATR is a crystal ball. You can see the whipsaw, you know, happening in certain areas, and you get a little bit of whip in here, and then maybe you're scalping me. You know, maybe you see this range and you see this bullish candle, and you're looking for a scalp, but you got to know that you got to take profits here and get out of this trade real quick, because there's a lot of whip going on down here, so I don't really know. Okay, so that's that. Yeah, that's what I got for the S&P right now. A lot of confusion in the market. A lot of we don't know what's going to happen. So here's that. We were looking for it, right? We were looking for that swing high pivot to look for the top. Didn't quite get the pivot. It just kind of turned and went the other way. Failed the floor test here. Traded straight through it. Traded straight through it again. We got that nice W pattern. We went away. Okay, anyways. Boy, I said I was going to keep these really short today because we had a lot to go through. Because, you know, market's going to be open in here if it's not already. It's getting pretty close. So, moving forward, S&P for the week of 3/8 to the week of Friday the 13th. Ooh, scary day. What's going to happen this week? I'm looking for high or low. And that's all I got to say. Discord is listed in the description. Come join us. Come chat. Come kick it. You know, come share your opinions. Hope you find yourself on the profitable side of the trade, and we'll see you in the next video.